Good morning. All right. Good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday, hump day. Um, Wednesday, January 11th. And anybody who's keeping up with the news, check it out. Oh, where's it at? Where's my phone? FAA orders airlines to halt U.S. departures amid ongoing systems outage. So I hope you ain't flying today. It's all jacked up. So, anyways, good morning. I hope everything is well with you. I hope that you're sitting there, if you're a coffee drinker, you're sitting there sipping your coffee, going, "Man, life is good. We're doing all right now." And if things aren't perfect, if things aren't where they need to be, I hope you have the ability to look at the situation and go, "You know what? I have an idea. I think I know how to accomplish or conquer this." That's what you need right now. That's what you need. Because it's easy to be successful when things are easy. And you know what's more important than success? Happiness, clarity. And that's the important thing. That's the most important thing. I could show you all the load boards and all the tools and all the knowledge and go, this is how you deal with the California, this is how you deal with the Northeast, this is what you deal with the weather. I could do all that for you. But if you ain't clear up here, those tools don't matter. Sonar doesn't matter. Freight waves doesn't matter. 123 low board don't matter. DAT don't matter. Trucking don't matter. So, anyways, I say the word anyways a lot, so that's kind of annoying. But let's get on with the talk. Um, it's interesting. Let's bring up. See if I can bring up this email here. I want to show you guys something interesting. All right, share the screen. Then we'll get to the comments. I don't want to be one of those guys that's like 30 minutes behind, even though that was me yesterday. This is my Google timeline for last year. Let's see if it'll let me zoom in on this. I traveled halfway around the world, 50%. And I only did 8 miles of low emission travel. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting that they're tracking that? That's neat. I'm being judged by how much low emission travel I've been making. I don't think I've walked 8 miles. How does it know that? How does it know how much I walk? I don't wear one of them watches. I'm not chip implanted yet. I think that's interesting. But it says I traveled 13,313 miles. So that was when I had to rescue. If I can zoom this in. Let's see. All right. That's when I had to rescue that trailer there in Abilene. That was a load. As you can see, I run Oklahoma quite a bit. Of course, all my loads were in this area that I did last year. And then this was Louisville. Matt's, baby. I plan on being at Matt's. Jeff and I were talking about that the other day. So I only went to 43 cities last year. Then, that was when I had to rescue a load out to Wichita. So, anyways, I thought that was interesting. I was watching Sterling yesterday. He was showing his different timelines from different years. All right, good morning, everybody. Old school, new school. You made it, or I made it. One of us made something. So I made coffee this morning, so there's that. Sean Fairman, good morning. First, good morning. My name is Nobody. Don Schonger, CB, morning from Texas. I like Texas. A lot of people don't like running Texas. I do. Dallas, nah. I cut my teeth in Dallas, so it doesn't intimidate me. It's a little bit better now that they've finished some of the construction, but what I don't like about Dallas is my options of parking. When I was at Snyder, man, it was easy. Just go to the OC, boom, you're good to go. You won't get shot at the OC. Grafton, good morning. Jeremy Rice, good morning. Only spent 331. I only filled my truck once for 2 days, 1,200 miles. There you go. That's the short haul game. Rest Area Raccoon. I love that name. One of my best performing shorts is about the raccoon that was on my porch. Raccoons are mean little boogers, so I would not mess with this person here, this profile. Life is good. The news don't affect me. And the Grafton, that's exactly what that's the theme of the morning. Dr. Berg had a good video this morning, and he barely mentions keto. So if you're anti-keto diet, don't worry. This is not one of his keto narratives, okay? It was about what stress does to the body. And it's 13 minutes, and it should give you a couple of, oh, okay, kind of moments. That makes sense kind of moments. Made a lot of sense to me. So if the news don't affect you, then you're good to go, Grafton. You're good to go. Desert Okie Pam, how's it going? I have completely spaced calling you on that last email. I apologize. It's been kind of a well, it's only Wednesday, but it feels like Friday to me. Morning, everyone. News just reported flights will start at 9:30 for now. That's good. We don't want another repeat of that was one of the weirdest things about 9/11 was you look up in the sky, there was no planes. Now, it's funny that I saw the news, like agenda-free news on YouTube. I watch that guy sometimes. And basically all it is the dude in a bow tie who gets online and he scours the internet for all these news media outlets. And so it is agenda free. He just wants to report the news, but unfortunately the sources that he grabs probably do have an agenda. But anyways, so I saw the headline. I immediately went to my Flight Radar app on my phone, which you can do that online too. And I saw that planes were still flying. I'm like, okay. So he admittedly said, I need to change this headline. This is misleading. So kudos to that guy. He's agenda free news. It's not bad. When that 6-year-old shot the teacher, he was reporting on that. But again, it's kind of like old school CNN where they're just picking. We're just searching for any kind of news, right? I remember when I was driving a school bus, we were at the break room, just waiting for our shifts to start. And there was a police chase video going on live out in California. And they're just following this guy with the helicopter, right? They weren't actively chasing him. He was just driving. It's kind of like the O.J. Simpson chase, right? And you could tell that the news people were like, "Oh, we got to come up with this is boring." Right? So they were doing like and I remember one of the blurbs underneath the headline was, "These guys have tattoos." I'm like, what? Suddenly everybody with the tattoo was suspect on running from the police in a car. And what good did that do? What good did that do to watch that? Nothing. Right? It does nothing. Half the people are watching are because they want to see their house on TV. The other half are watching to see for that big wreck. They want to see something go down. Well, unfortunately, there's been a few police chase videos where they've been showing it. They were showing the police chase. The guy runs out. There's one guy that ran out and blasted his own face. And the news did not cut away from that quick enough. And so the whole like well, isn't that why you're showing this? Because you want to attract the people that want to see something negative go down like that? You know. And meanwhile, this is creating cortisol. This is creating stress. This is creating the fight or flight, and it's not doing your health any good. I've got a lot of work to do, by the way. Happy are those who focus on what they have and can do. CB, that is it. That is perfect. That's perfect. Because I know that when my anxiety and my depression go up, which has been happening a little bit more here lately, um, I go to gratitude. List even if you're just breathing, even if you're like, okay, I'm breathing, that's good. And if you think breathing's not good, then you probably ought to try to figure out why. You need to figure out why. Not oughta. You need to figure out why. WCF Invader says he hates Freightliner dealerships. I'm with you on that. Did you get that load picked up last night, or are we still in limbo on that? Nevada Trucking and Trails, good morning. Explosion. Is that explosion? I don't know what that is. Yeah, it is. Boom, boom, boom. I seem to make more on short haul versus long haul. You can gross as much on the short game, depending on where you're running, mind you, but net more. Or you might even gross less, but net more. And we talked about that yesterday about grossing less, but netting more. Or you net the same, right? But with less miles, less fuel, less pressure, a lot of dock sitting in the short haul. That's the negative. But if you're doing a lot of sitting at docks, that gives you the opportunity to read, to watch positive things, to watch learning things, you know, um, or you just get on Zello and create drama. You can do that too. But what's more fun, right? I was at SNI when that happened in the Dallas yard. Oh, when 9/11 happened? Well, were you at the Snyder yard when that tornado hit? There was a tornado that hit the Dallas yard. Now that Dallas yard is different. It's a little bit south of there now. It's in right next to P&G there. I'm trying to remember the name of that just south of Dallas there. That's where the new yard is. I've not visited the new yard. I believe Daniel Adami was telling me about it. Said it was really nice there. Back when he was at Schneider. Pigtail, good morning. I haven't talked to you in a minute, man. Everything going okay? You been busy? Good morning, Shannon. Yo, good morning, Red Diesel. Kansas to Texas. The Dallas market isn't really too bad in reefer and van right now. Nevada doing another explosion. Just busy. That's what I figured. I saw your picture on Facebook contemplating out on the lake. I thought, man, dude, that's perfect. I would love that. I would love to have a piece of property that has a dock that goes out to a lake, a body of water, and just sit every morning. I would love to do that. Um, One of my favorite truck stops is there's a mom and pop truck stop over there next to the Clarksville, Arkansas Walmart distribution center. They got a body of water there, large pond, and there's even a couple of benches out there. And a lot of times I'll just sit out there and just leave my phones in my truck and just sit out there. It's amazing what that can do for your clarity. It's amazing what that can do for your stress level. Jarvis got shot at the old Dallas yard. I think I remember that. What it was is I think somebody had jumped the fence and, look, I that's why I think it's important to carry. I don't know if that would have prevented that, but the more people that believe that drivers are going to protect themselves, the better, right? Schneider would be like, well, I know that Schneider has this no policy. So guess what? That makes them an easy target. Just my 2 cents. Down to my last 11 months till on my truck till I paid off. Good deal. It feels good to pay off a truck. Now, is it the be all end all of everything? No, especially when the truck falls apart, but it's definitely a good accomplishment. And, the trick is here's the trick having that truck paid off, and it's still worth something. It's still worth, you know, it doesn't have like 2 million miles on it before you, you know, pay it off. I know his rate's going downwards. Broker saying I'm breaking even, or that's all I have in it. Script reading. Yes. So that even my broker reps that I deal with every day are using that term. They want you to feel guilty about asking for more money. It's a tactic. Now, whether it's true or not, some of it might be true because again, a lot of these brokers are undercutting each other, or they're grabbing it from another source, and the lowest bidder wins. And there's that's kind of what was going on with Landstar when I was there. Um, and here's where the broker relationships can kind of hurt you a little bit. Okay, so when your rep sits there and says, "Well, I'm breaking even on this one," it's a give and take, right? At least mentally, you start going, "Well, okay, I won't go up $500. I'll just go up $300." And I've done that, right? Um, if it's a new broker that it's somebody that you just found on the low board that you're calling, use that back. I did that to a TQL guy one time. They had to get the manager involved. And I was being completely cordial. I was being nice, They're like, "Yeah, we're breaking even on this, whatever amount it was." I'm like, "Well, see, I'm under my cost with, at this and this per mile. So I'm not even breaking even on this. So that's why I have to be at this number." And they're like, hold on a second." And all of a sudden there's a new voice on the phone. Yeah, we got to be at this number. He had a much better script, But that's part of the game, right? That's part of the game, and that's why you have to have mental clarity. And so you can see all the BS, you know, lasers coming at you. Now, some of it's probably legit because they've had to bid quite low. These shippers are giving them pressure. Look, we'll let this stuff sit on the dock if it doesn't move if it doesn't move at X price. So I mean, there's 100 things going on. But here's the thing. Here's what I've noticed. If I hear that, depending on the area, I hear that less. So check your load volumes. Check your hot market maps. I don't care what load board you're using. Check your hot market maps. Because I guarantee you that I mean, it definitely has a role in that. And so if you have 20 brokers and they're all saying we're breaking even or that's all I have in it, guess what? You need to be in an area where you can make 30 phone calls instead of, so the first 20 don't count. You want to be in a high volume area where you could sit there and say, well, there's X amount of loads in the area on the DAT board or on the 123 load board or whatever. And so if anything changes, give me a call. Sometimes they call back, sometimes they don't. If you're desperate, you need to move right now, you're empty at a truck stop and you're looking for a load, it's harder to do that because you want to go now. If you're doing directional freight where you have to go back to a certain city, you're at the mercy of that. You could be the master negotiator, but if you only have 3 options to go back to, like, say, Minneapolis, then what do? Do you sit there and are you going to deadhead back? No. I mean, you could if that load that gets you out of Minnesota pays good enough. And I ran into that. I'm trying to get a truck up to Wisconsin, and they didn't want to pay squat. And I was hearing that script. I was hearing that, and I'm looking at the low volumes. I'm like, well, there wasn't too many loads going to Wisconsin, and they know that Wisconsin is a great market. So guess what? We didn't go to Wisconsin. And I had to tell my broker that's got freight in Wisconsin, I'm like, sorry, I can't get a truck up there. And she wasn't desperate enough to give me deadhead, but she has before. She once paid me for 500 miles of deadhead to get one of my trucks up there. That's the kind of relationships you need. That's the kind of service you want to put out there. And unfortunately, though, money rules all things, right? And sometimes it doesn't matter how good a relationship is with the broker. You get what you get. Rebuilt everything in 30,000 in repairs. There you go. 18 kW. Nice. I think it is better to pay attention to your surroundings. What is out of the ordinary? Yes. Situational awareness. Oh my gosh. That will save. It buys you time. Time buys you options. That's what active self-protection says. Awareness is key. It buys you time. Time buys you options. I mean, I guess you can say that with anything in life. If you're aware that this particular market is bad, this in a certain area, the sooner you're aware of that, the more options that you're going to be able to create for yourself. The sooner you're aware of something's wrong with your truck, then it gives you more time to go over your options. I pulled an all-nighter, showed up 8 hours late, drove 70 mile per hour to the receiver, got there 15 minutes early. Now I'm getting loaded on the next load. Great. Good deal. All new parts. Good deal. I'm tired now. Sounds like it. Sean Owens, good morning, everyone. Getting unloaded in Waterloo, Iowa. Iowa's a good market right now for van and reefer. I posted. Let's see if I can find this here. I can never remember her name. Everybody remembers the title of Snorelord. Trucking makes made successful. Here, I'll share the screen. This is her channel right here. I posted on the community page. She had some really good insights. She's got sonar. She's spent the big money. She's in a similar position that I'm in, and she she had some good insight. You know, it's a good way to save money on not paying for sonar. So I had a dedicated broker load from Detroit to Kenosha. The customer took my lane and crammed all the product into the night lane, going to the same place. So now I'm almost all spot market. That is happening a lot, Red Diesel. I talked to a potential client yet the other day who, was in a similar situation. Lost all of his contract freight, and now he's got nothing. Charles Spray, no Lord, how are you this morning? What do you think of the 29? What do you think? 2019 Freightliner truck with $500,000, 500,000 miles is probably what you meant to say. It just depends. I mean, what's that going to cost? How much are they charging for it? We kind of went over this on Monday. What's the warranty if there's any warranty? What's the plan if the truck goes down? Do you have the money in the bank to cover repairs, because anything after 500,000 miles starts nickel and diming you at an accelerated rate. And so you got to be prepared for that. What's the truck's history? What's its idle time? Does it have an APU? What's the motor oil look like? How much are they asking for it? You know, all these different things. What platform? Are you going to be running spot market with a van company? What's your cost per mile, per day, per month on that vehicle? What's the insurance going to cost depending on the price of the truck? There's all these different factors, so that I'm going to need a little bit more information. What is the blow by? Yep. DIY Semi, good morning. Adam and I had some pretty good talks yesterday. Wheel Burner, good morning. Mr. Ice Road Trucker. You're totally right, Snow. Sitting at receiver or truck stop, you get that feeling you got to move now. And then so it's a perception thing, right? So if you're under stress, like let's say you've got $1,000 a week truck payment, right? And you're sitting at a truck stop empty and you can't find a load. That's hard. I mean, that's what that kind of stress is bad. So if you have your costs pretty low, I can afford to sit maybe a little bit, at least for a couple hours. You don't have this sense of urgency. You don't have that fight or flight in your head. Don't get me wrong, that fight or flight is good at the right moments, but to constantly live in perpetual fight or flight, that's no good. And so the lower your cost, the less that pressure is, right? You just take the good with the bad and you keep rolling. So sitting can be one of the worst things for you. It's I know people that prefer, like, they know the short game can be good, but it's more stressful. It's more sitting. It's more looking at low boards, calling more brokers, right? Or use a dispatch service like me, and then it's more work for me. Long haul though, book one load, do 2,500 miles. You're not even thinking about your next load, at least for a day or two. And you bump one dock, drive 2,500 miles, bump another dock, and then bump another dock to get your reload, and then do another 2,500 miles. That could be less stressful, as long as the weather holds, right? And so, and that's one of the more appealing things about running out west, especially if on the southern route. You got pretty scenery, you've got just nothing but straight road ahead of you, and it's you know lower traffic volumes. Man, I've always said that if I could find a dedicated route between Springfield and Phoenix and back, I would done it. But unfortunately, the rates aren't worth that. I can make more money running short haul around here, or the same amount of money, less wear and tear on the truck. That's kind of how I look at that. But some people just like to drive. I like driving. One of my favorite runs that I used to do all the time was Kansas City to Salt Lake City, Utah. And then it was light, so the mountains were nothing. And it was light coming back. A little bit heavier coming back, but not much. Every now and then we grab a load of salt out of Salt Lake and bring it back to usually Oklahoma City or Springfield for O'Reilly's. And you know, when you're doing 10 miles an hour up the hill, you just kind of enjoy the scenery. You just it's a lot less stressful when you're not paying for the fuel and truck goes down. It's not a big deal to you. But as an owner operator, that would stress me out a little bit, regardless if I had a new truck or not. That's the other thing. Look at the DEF filters. When was the last time they were burned or replaced, or both? That's a big part. What condition is a one box? One box in a Freightliner is about 15 grand, give or take a couple of bucks. So that and most warranties don't cover that. So you gotta pay attention to that. What do you consider in short haul? Well, it depends on the platform. So for van, short haul to me is 300 miles and less. So for example, Rogers to Sedalia, Kansas City to Springfield, Kansas City to Tulsa, Joplin to Rolla. You know, mid-range haul regional is like, to me, is a 600, 700 mile radius. A day. Like from Joplin to Columbus, Ohio, or from Kansas City to Dallas. Something like that. Um, or Kansas City to Houston. But long haul is 1,000 or more to me. You know, so that's kind of and there was a time where the mid range loads were paying the best. The 800, 900 mile loads were paying the best. Do you think the only ones making money in trucking are brokers? No. Um, the ones that are making the money are the shops, the parts builders, the towing companies, the DOT, the truck stops, um, low boards, the mechanics, and the IRS. They're all making their money off of trucking. Del Toro, no, I can tell you for a fact the dealerships are making a killing on the service side at least. Beautiful day in Jessup, Georgia. I've been there. Is that where you're picking up? That's a good market. You can find some good loads in there. So let's do that. Let's look at Jessup, Georgia, shall we? Jessup, Georgia is way more fun. Oh, and Jessup, Maryland. I got lost in Jessup, Maryland. That was not fun. I didn't get lost, but I was definitely down some roads I shouldn't have been. Let's see. Where is it? Am I spelling it wrong? There it is. Okay. Shannon had it spelled right. Anywhere. And let's make this van. Let's take out power only. Search. Next 3 days. Today, tomorrow, and the Fridays. 263 loads. So let's reduce this down. So we go up to new search, keep everything the same, and then we'll change the dates to today and tomorrow. We don't need to see our Friday freight yet. All right. 195. So that's another thing you can do when you look at a low board. If you put 2 or 3 days in there, see how much that increases or decreases the number. So that's for today and tomorrow. So let's just do what's going on today. And I'm going to tell you why you need to do this. This is a trick that I've learned, okay? Let's make this for just today. How many loads? We went from 263 for the next 3 days to 100. So that tells me that. So here's the thing. So sometimes you'll look at a load, an origin, right? And you'll see 200 loads within a 150-mile radius for today and tomorrow and Friday. But then if you just put it for today and it's like 198, that tells you that they're waiting until the last minute to book these loads. So in other words, if you do a load search for today and it's 100, but then you do a load search today but picking up on Friday and there's 300, that means they're wanting to book ahead. That's how you determine. That's one of the things that I look at on determining whether a market is hot or not, or warm or lukewarm or cold or whatever. And so sometimes it changes throughout the week that it becomes a day of market is what I call it. In other words, you're going to do better booking something the day of than ahead of time. And that also depends on the market. So you can probably do better a day of in say like Wisconsin, but then if you go down to Alabama, you're going to want to book that ahead of time. Now, what the brokers will do, let's say I'm going to try to book a Friday load today, I lose a little bit of negotiating power depending on the load, depending on the broker. So I call, hey, I'm looking at your load picking up Friday 8 a.m., yada, yada, yada. And they're like, yeah, I said, well, I need to be at this amount. And they're like, well, they've got a lot of time to book this, so they're going to wait. So I can't budge. And so you look at that market to see if there's good volumes. I mean, you still want to make your 20 phone calls, but if you're going directional, like you absolutely need that load and you don't have many options, then you either take the chance that load's not going to be there in the morning, or you got to book it now. And so that's the whole idea. That's leverage, right? Where do you have leverage? Well, guess what? A lot of us don't have leverage right now. But if a broker's calling you desperate for trucks, you have the leverage. I've got a broker in Wisconsin that I've got a lot of leverage with because she can't get anybody up there to do her loads, and they pay well. So it's all about leverage. And so, but that's what you look at. You look at how many loads per each day and how much it adds. And so if you do a 150-mile radius and there's 500 loads, guess what? Reduce your radius to 50, see what happens. It goes down to 10, then you know that everything's between 50 to 100 miles. So you do a 100-mile radius. Usually Chicagoland, I do a 100-mile radius, if not 50. But then if you're in like Cheyenne, Wyoming, yeah, you're going to want to do a 300-mile radius to see what's around you. That plays a big part. So there's quite a few options here. Here's the newest one: Savannah to Smyrna, Tennessee, paying $229 a mile. I bet you I know what this is. Cell phone tracking. Appointment 8 a.m. Okay, it's not multiple delivery. That's what I thought. It might be. That's a pretty easy day. Now, Tennessee's been kind of a crap show for van. So I wouldn't be as excited for that one. But I do know there's a shipper in Smyrna there that ships four-wheelers. So you might be able to get a load out of there if you know that broker. I know who the broker is. Here's Savannah to Olive Branch. Not a little bit better area. And they're almost at $2 a mile coming out of Georgia. Savannah's a good spot. Jacksonville, Florida to Maryland. Let's say you want to go up to Maryland and you're into self-abuse. That's apparel. A lot of clothing comes out. Man, average rate is $5.83 a mile. Holy crap. I wonder what load brought that average up like that. That's crazy. Like average was $1.33 at that point. So somebody got some really big money coming out of there, probably a multiple stop load. So who knows if those analytics are correct or not. That's crazy. Um so obviously SRAM Logistics has a lot of freight coming out of Savannah. Pepsi's got some stuff. Here we go. Port Wentworth to Grand Forks, North Dakota, because you also like self-abuse. It says flatbed Conestoga or van. So there might be a little bit more money on this. A lot of times lumber can, especially finished lumber, can either go on a flatbed or a van. A little bit trickier in a van because the weights can be off. They're pretty low for that. I would want more to go up to North Dakota because if you look in the market coming out of North Dakota, there's 5 loads going out of North Dakota to anywhere. And they're all in Williston, which is seeing some pretty stupid weather right now. But look, you can do Williston to Rockdale, Texas. Not a bad rate. Of course, I'd be a little bit higher for that because you got to look at Texas. How many loads are coming out of this area? Oh, they're not even showing it. So probably because it's the reload. So I mean that's so it's all about leverage, right? Dealerships and shops have big overheads. Yes, they do. They have a lot of OSHA regulations and everything else, insurance. Yeah, I'm just saying brokers really don't have much risk or cost as an operator. I disagree with that. As a truck driver, I mean, truck drivers take risks regardless if you're company or owner op. I mean, you could wipe out a minivan of a family and be put in prison. Yeah, deadheaded here from Jacksonville to pick up a load, taking me to Kingsport, Tennessee. There you go. U.S. flights grounded due to FAA systems outage. Interesting headline. Yes, we talked about that earlier. Some high winds expected in Texas and Oklahoma. That's the one I wanted to read that you said. I do a 200-mile radius. Yeah, out of Jacksonville. Yeah, I forget how far Savannah is from Jacksonville. I don't think it's too bad. It's nothing to worry about in Nevada. A friend of mine just took off from an airport in Florida. There was an ATC system failure. It's going to make a good headline, though, right? Good morning, Steve. Don't worry. I won't ask to start over. I'll watch replay. Thank you. Appreciate it. I got this low for 1060, 100-mile deadhead, 400 miles loaded. Gets me 200 miles from my puppy pickup. Good deal. I don't care how big overhead a shop has. When they charge over $1,300 to place one sensor that took your mechanic 2.5 hours and the driver brought the part in, I'd argue they're still making a killing. Yeah, Don did not have a good day yesterday. I mean, he kind of did. I mean, he had the part, got the truck eventually fixed, and he was able to pick up his load and deliver it. So just delayed him a little bit. It didn't cost him, but the cost of repairs. All right. Here's our density maps. Let's look at van first, because that's the most common platform. Doink. Oh, a little bit more green on this one. That's a good sign. Arizona is actually yellow instead of red. See what's coming out of Arizona. For you long haul people, here's Phoenix to PA, 39,000 pounds. Picks up tomorrow. Average rate is 207 a mile. It's actually that's pretty steady for Phoenix. And then Pennsylvania, there's Montgomery, PA to anywhere is 382 loads, so that'd be a good one to keep your driver busy. Good credit score on each end. I deal with Axle Logistics. I've done pretty well with them. Now, depending on the weather, you might take the southern route. So there's that. Most of these loads are going to come out of Phoenix, Goodyear, Tucson. You really don't see a whole lot coming out of northern Arizona. Here we go. Here's one I would do. Triple T, Phoenix to St. Louis, or that's one I would look at. I don't know if I'd do it or not. Much lower rate per mile on the average, 42,000 pounds. My familiar with Triple T is not. I don't have any. I've never used them. They're approved with Thunder, so that's good. No tolls. Might make less per mile on this low, but St. Louis is a great market. A lot of loads going out to California. I've noticed that a lot of brokers are posting on other platforms that are not theirs. Like it says van, it says RV Cars and Freight Transport. Yeah, it's a partial, 1.6 feet, 55 pounds. So probably one pallet that they want you to move for 300. It's harder to do LTL from multiple sources. Like if you're picking up one load and doing multiple deliveries, that's one way to do an LTL. But the other way is to create 3 or 4 partials. A lot of step deck people do that. But you can do that. It doesn't matter what, depending on the weight, because, you want good weight distribution, but it's harder to accomplish that in the van because, you got to make sure everything's in the right order. One time I picked up a load in Roanoke, Virginia. It was when I was at Landstar, and they loaded me pretty quickly, and I look in the back, and only half the trailer's full. And he looks at me and goes, "You got anything else you're picking up?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "Oh, wish I had known that. I wouldn't have stacked it." So all the weight was in the front. Luckily, it didn't mess with the axle weight, but that's it says 55,000 pounds. So who knows what's going on with this scenario? So I see something like this, I don't even call. This is a partial, but it's 55,000 pounds. Your RV cars and freight transport, but your platform's van, and you're showing 24 cents a mile. There's a situation here that's not even worth calling in my book, other than morbid curiosity. So, and that can get frustrating when you're stressed out empty at a truck stop and you see crap like that. Here's one: Phoenix to Michigan. Average is 210 a mile. History shows that Michigan's a good spot. Pay attention to your weather. 93 credit score. Let's take a look at this map. So that's western side of Michigan, the west side of the mitten. Usually a good freight lane. A lot of loads going to California, Texas. Here we go. Yuma to Laredo. Laredo's a good spot right now. If you're reefer, avocados are running right now, guys. Just saying, avocados and apples are running. Non-hazardous batteries. That's a low rate for non-hazardous batteries. I wouldn't do that. Not at that rate. You could do better. Phoenix to Salt Lake. That's a lane that I get. I got a broker that sends me gobs of those loads every single morning. Heavy loads going through the mountains, a lot of bad weather. So this load is a no bueno in my book. Not for that rate, not for what they want to pay to go from Phoenix to Salt Lake. Yuma to Plainfield, Indiana. Indiana's a good spot. It's in the green zone. 24,000 pounds. That's a good solid. I like 24, 25 because it's light enough that you can beat people up the hills, but it's heavy enough that you don't have to feel squeamish, depending on how high the winds are. It pays a little bit better. Plainfield, Indiana puts you in a good spot. See how many loads are coming out of there. 162, 321 from just right out of Plainfield there. There's even 4 loads going right back to Arizona. Let's see. California. Now, one of the things that I saw on Twitter was they're catching up there in the ports. All the ships are catching up. So we might see a freight reduction anyways. So we'll see. Yep, I have the invoice, nickel and dime you every way they can. Yeah, that's a bad shop. Who was it? Freightliner in Forestdale, Missouri also had issues, not nearly as bad though, with the Freightliner dealership in Columbia, Missouri. Going to use Cummins service centers from now on if needed. That is that is why I didn't buy that brand of truck, because I'm not been impressed with the place around here. Anybody watch the Big Rig CEO segment earlier this week or last week? I think it was. They made a major mistake on his, and it almost cost a lot of money. They made it right, but still, it created stress and created downtime, which you can't get that back. So very late. SSD. Well, WCF, if your local Freightliner in Neosho shoots you straight, also tailor made on West Chestnut. Yes. I'll agree with those statements. I had tailor made work on my APU, my old APU, and that guy went on to become Dale's APU service. Neosho, that's a that's a smaller place, but he's a little bit far from Neosho. I know where he's out of. So, anyways, let's look at reefer hot market map. Little less green on that one, but green and Idaho's banging, guys. If you can deal with the weather, Idaho's got some good freight coming out. So let's click on it here. Here we go. If you're not scared of New York City, here's a logo in the Bronx. Imagine this is going to be produce going to Hunts Point. Need to be up closer to probably get $8,000 for this one. Cool trucking. You want to do this load? Let's see if I can negotiate you $8,000. I think I could. Or get pretty close. Here we go. Burley, Idaho to Springfield, Ohio. Triple T again. Picks up at 1, January 24th. Okay, well, we're not even worried about that. So let's look at, okay, here's one picking up tomorrow going to Nashville. Let's see. This is logistic dynamics. They're right at the average. Must be 8 o'clock. My YouTube's going crazy. Let's see who else is live. Speaking of which, that reminds me, Kansas City area is going to get hit with some weather tomorrow. By the way, here's Boise to Monroe, Georgia. Load no longer available. That's already gone. Let's see. Here's one picking up today. Burley, Idaho to L.A. That's pretty low for L.A. Jeez. Posted rates. You got to love them. You can find where the avocados are, man. You can make some money right now. Question: 2 loads from St. Louis, Missouri to Dallas, Texas. Load 1 is 42,000 pounds versus load number 2, 24,000 pounds. How much less will take load number 2? Assume first come first serve at pickup and delivery. Both dry goods. Only difference is LBS. What's LBS? The weight. Okay. Well, from St. Louis to Dallas, how much less will take the load number 2? So, are you talking about money? So yeah, I would look at the net on that. You know, I'm so here's the deal. So here's how I would look at that CDN. I would look at that. I would call on the 24,000 pound one first, see what the rate was, and then I'd call on the 42,000 pound one and see what the rate was. And it would all depend on the delivery times. You know, if you assume first come first serve at delivery, so everything's equal except the weight, and I think that's what you're trying to get at. I'm going to call on the 24,000 one first, but I have leverage maybe with the 42,000 pound one because I can ask for more money. Now, will I get it? Who knows? But that all that does is add a tool to the toolbox. So if I call in 24,000 and they and you hear the broker go, yeah, it's a nice lighter load. It's only 24,000 pounds. Guess what? They want you to lowball them. But if it's a 42,000 pound load and you call the broker, it's a nice, easy one on, one off, standard 42,000, yada yada yada. It's like they'll sell that, like, oh, it's easy on, easy off, easy load versus this is an easy light load. These are all words that are meant to change your perception so you don't ream them for the cash. So, and that's the other element. St. Louis to Dallas. So your hills are going to be between St. Louis and Rolla, and then after that, it's pretty flat. Depending on what route you go, time is another aspect. So CDN pretty flat trip says, come on with it. Fuel cost differentials minimal, less than $50. Weight doesn't affect me with my truck. I burn the same fuel regardless, so it doesn't affect the rate. In my case, however, for drivability, lightweight loads are preferred. Now, the other element to that is, you reported earlier, Nevada, that it's supposed to be high winds in Oklahoma and Texas today. So I might be more apt to take that 42K just so I'm not worried about that, depending on how high the winds are forecasted. So there's that element too. So it's not a cut and dry situation. Little Rock route, that's kind of out of route. To go from St. Louis, to go through Little Rock, that's, what are you going to take 55 down through West Memphis? That's out of route. I would just, take 44. You could take 44 all the way to Oklahoma City and drop down, or you could take 44 to US 69, the speed bump of many miles, as the locals call it. And then there's a different route too. I think it's trying to remember it's in my head. I want to say US 75. So, but once you get past Rolla, it's pretty flat. So you're only dealing with probably 120 miles of, some hilly stuff. Yep, cold and snow, rain there in Kansas City. So 18,000 pounds less weight only saves $50. Depends on the fuel mileage of the truck and how its truck's geared. The truck gearing is a big part of that as well. You start adding mountains and the cost goes way up for most trucks, right? Lighter is always nicer, but cost depends on terrain. Then you get there and it's 4,000 pounds more. No Little Rock route. Steve, yes, if you're quoting a load, will you offer a reduced rate if a load number 2 is 18,000 pounds less than load number 1? I'm trying to see from an Isaac carry what factors affect rate. I won't offer a reduced rate for, or I don't look at a low board and say, well, this one's only 5,000 pounds, so I'm only going to go up $100. I don't do that. So if the broker turns that and puts it in my face, then I know that's what they want me to do. So it's not a cut and dry situation. 55 to US 67 to 30 is the way I go. How many more miles is that though? Because Google, you're going to have to put in Little Rock for that, or West Memphis for that routing. Then US 30 has the same. I think it's not as. It's not as hilly as from St. Louis to Rolla, but at the same time, I don't know. I just prefer the shorter route. Also, Missouri's got cheaper fuel than Arkansas and Oklahoma, so there's that too. So get your fuel in Missouri, get it in Joplin. Look for the cheapest spot. Usually for the TA Petro network and our discount, cheapest spots are Stratford, Joplin, Kingdom City, and Oak Grove. Those are the cheapest ones, and usually Stratford's underneath all of them. In all honesty, so many brokers either lie or misled by the shipper on the weight. I've had numerous times where it's supposed to be a light load and end up being heavy, vice versa. And that's the thing. So that's why I take weight into an account. If both loads were presented to me for the same price, I'm going to take the lighter one. However, the one of the negotiating tactics that one might use is like, hey, this is heavier, so I need X amount more. Well, if you pick up the load and it's half that weight, are you going to call the broker, hey, my bad, so let me give you back this X amount of dollars? No. So usually where weight comes into a factor is if you're running short haul or regional, I don't even look at the weight. But if you're doing something steady, like say from Michigan to Virginia and back, well, the weight can become a factor at the end of the week. If every single load you're doing is 45,000 pounds back and forth between Michigan and Virginia, yeah, that's going to put a strain on your net. But again, it's a bigger picture, so it just depends on, and I've seen identical loads. One's a full trailer, one's a partial trailer. And of course, I want the partial trailer. Depending, if I'm going through Wyoming, I might want the heavier load. So there's too many factors. There's too many, and the whole through the eyes of a carrier. Not everybody has the same eyes I do. So it just, the trucks are designed to move 80,000 pounds. And if not more. So where I have trouble with 45,000 pound loads is the potential to be overweight. And so that can cost you downtime. It can cause you to have to go get reloaded, or it can cause you a ticket. It costs you money to scale it if you don't have a right way system. Now, the other thing you want to do is, let's say you want to try to stay around 25,000 pounds. So you put in your low board settings 25,000 pounds and only 15 loads pop up. Well, put in no weight limit, and all of a sudden you might have 200 loads pop up. That means you're kind of screwed. You're probably not going to get a lighter load out of there. So that's another thing. So when I take heavier loads, it's in flatter terrain. I have no problem doing St. Louis to Columbus, Ohio with 45,000 pounds if it's loaded correctly. I would have more of an issue with 45 going to Pennsylvania, let's say from Columbus, because now you're dealing with tolls and more mountains and hills and all that. You're going to net less, and fuel's more expensive. So I mean, there's 100 different things that I look at, and sometimes you just got to book the load and go. So you can look at all these things, but at the end of the day, you got to move, right? In all on okay, I think I already read that. 22 more miles, but 17 less minutes according to Google. Okay, well, that's a route I never would have considered. Another reason I asked this: say you book the load number 2 at 24,000 pounds. Shipper doesn't tell broker or carrier and loads 42,000 based on feedback. Come on, would ask $50 extra. Others won't ask extra. If the broker promised you a certain lighter weight and it's not, some guys will call and say, "Hey, we need to add a couple extra bucks on this." But do you have leverage? I mean, what are you going to do? Just like, well, we're not hauling it then over, $50, $100, $200? No. I mean, you can't. You can sit there and say F you and take the stuff off my truck. Well, then now you've just lost your day. You've lost your broker contact and you've ticked off the shipper. You have no leverage in that position. I would always ask for more money unless it was a broke relationship I had long term. Then I would work out with. So you're right. So here's what I would do. If it was my buddy at my big brokerage, I'd be like, "Hey man, dude, this weight was off." He's like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah. Can you throw a little bit more money on that?" I mean, it's no big deal if you can't. Yeah, man, I'll see what I can do, and they usually do. But if they don't know you from anybody else, then where's your leverage? Morning, y'all. Jackknife, what's up? See, most of the time it's not worth the effort to ask for more. I want to do a professional job for every broker. Asking for more money after accepting a load sounds to me very unprofessional. So here's the situation. This is the first time I dealt with this as an owner operator. I was at Landstar. I picked up a load. It was not listed as hazmat. I was picking up at BIC. And I'm thinking, well, might be pens, might be lighters, nothing, no big deal, right? And no, it was bulk lighter fluid. Not bulk, but cases of lighter fluid. And it was posted at 22,000 pounds. So I go to sign my paperwork. It's one of those shippers that you sign all the paperwork, they give you the seal and everything before they even load your truck. Right? Well, I go in the office. He's like, "All right, here's your placards and here's your bills." And I look and it's like 500. I'm like, "Is this weight correct? It was supposed to be at 22,000." He's like, "We don't haul anything 22,000 out of here." I'm like, "Okay, that's what the agent told me." He's like, "So I may not be able to haul this. Please load it correctly. Thank you." So I'm getting loaded and I call the agent. I'm like, "Dude, this is like 45.5." He's like, "Oh, well, that's weird. I've never had that issue. I've never had that problem there. That's weird." I was like, I didn't argue with the guy. I'm just okay. This agent's a piece of crap. He just lied to me because he wanted to take advantage of someone that's going to pick the lower weight load. He goes, "Well, I can add a couple of $100 extra if that's a problem." I said, "Yeah, please do. I'm expecting a new rate con. Number one. Number two, I said, I'll be lucky if I can even haul it. This is back when I had my 387, which was a heavier truck." So sure enough, I get to the Catscale, which is luckily was only a mile down the road. And I had a hell of a time getting it axled out. I had to check my atlas. Remember those things, guys? I had to check the atlas to make sure I was not bad on bridge law because the tandems had to be like 2 notches from the rear. And it was Hazmat. He didn't tell me it was Hazmat either. And that's why Landstar requires every single driver over there to have Hazmat, because you have agents that will conveniently omit that because they don't want to pay extra money. And so what this guy ended up doing is he called me back. He goes, well, I can't add any revenue to the load, but what I can do is I can create $200 and put it in your accessorials so Landstar doesn't get a cut of that. Because at Landstar you got 65% of 98%. And then out of that 65, you get 100% accessorial. So if you have $200 of accessorial or fuel surcharge, and also the fuel surcharge, then Landstar didn't get a cut of that. And agents did that all the time. If I was Landstar, I'd be like, hey, what gives, dude? Right? So at that point, I avoided high weight loads at Landstar because every single heavy load that was listed 44 plus was like that. Every single one. I was either fighting the axle or it had to be reloaded, or it was stupid. It was loaded stupid. So that's where my issue with weight is. 44,000 pounds of bottled water, no problem. 44,000 pounds of Coke or Pepsi or beverages, no problem. Because they just put the same amount of pallets in. As long as your truck can handle it, you're good to go. But if it's oddball stuff or multiple stops, that's a recipe for disaster. That's the only overweight ticket I got, was because the first stop was heavier than the second stop. So all the weight was in the tail, and I had no idea because I only had a suspension gauge for the front. And literally the trailer was doing this. 38,000 pounds, those 2,000 pounds over on the tandems at the sweet spot. I think the surprised look on my face irritated the DOT officer. This was Joplin, by the way. And they're like, didn't you scale it? I said, it's 38,000. When in doubt, scale it out. They put that crap on you. But it was multiple stops, so I should have known better. I was still green at that point. Whoops. Give and take, I only ask for more money if there's accessories, layover, detention, lumper, driver unload, etc. At the end of the day, weight doesn't affect the other variables time, right? Summary seems that when look for load, weight is not much of a factor. For some people, it is. However, if shipper loads more weight, extra charges may apply. If shipper loads less weight, no discount. Pretty much. I don't know anybody who's ever called the broker back, dude, this is only 10,000 pounds, man. How much money you want back? They're not going to do that. I don't do that. Now, with that being said, though, there might be a rate con that says, hey, if this isn't the posted weight, then we reserve the right to take money. That I've seen that before. Nice thing about oversized is you get a room with an escort. That's funny. I appreciate the insight. Just questions to get the perspective from behind the wheel. There you go. Ebbs and flows, says Shannon. There are historically way more problems on the I-44 route, especially in winter weather, considering everything. The Little Rock route is better, unless you live in Springfield and want to go home. Now, with that being said, the southern route will be the better route today if you were doing that St. Louis to Dallas today, because of the winter weather that's going to come up from out of Kansas City. Thanks, Kansas City. Then swipe the Ozarks just a little bit and then go up 44 to St. Louis. So there's that. So that would be a good route at that point. Thanks, Kansas City. WCF, we need more carriers like you and everyone in this chat. There's so many shady carriers out there. I see what you did there. It's trucking. There will be headaches. It's how we deal with them and treat each other that matters. You have to be kind. And it goes right back to the beginning of this live feed of when I said you have to have some mental clarity. You have to be calm, cool, and collected so you can deal with these problems as they come to you and not live in a constant state of fight or flight. Nevada, you are correct. The spot market is all about gaining leverage, which puts you in the power position in negotiations. I don't complain about things unless I feel I was intentionally lied to, then I'll address the moral of the situation and usually seek compensation for deceit. I'm feeling the love in the chat right now. We have to be careful or Steve will put out his guitar, play metal version of Kumbaya. I don't haul Hazmat, but if I did and I booked a load that was non-Hazmat only to find out it really was Hazmat, I'd be having some words with the broker and definitely would be asked for it, which I did and got in a way. But I no longer run spot, but when I did, I always represented the carrier broker in a professional way. And when it comes to spot and Hazmat, WCF, I've never gone to a load. Like, oh, by the way, this is Hazmat. Can you still haul it? That's never happened in the 6 years I've been in spot market. That only happened at Landstar twice. I've only seen 2 or 3 brokers put Hazmat loads on the spot market. One's TQL, the other one's Landstar. So, and you'll see money on those right off the bat. Now, I've called on loads. Yeah, this is Hazmat. Can you haul it? No, you should have put that in the description. We wouldn't waste each other's times. Negotiation is art. Sometimes. Sometimes it just sucks. All right. Oh, good. I was getting concerned about that, Snorelord. No. We had a load. I booked a load picking up, and my driver calls me and goes, dude, that's usually a Hazmat place. Is there Hazmat on this? I'm like, no. They didn't mention Hazmat. I even called the broker back. I'm like, you sure this isn't Hazmat? No, this is non-Hazmat chemicals. I'm like, all right. So now the driver goes, well, I have my Hazmat, but does like trucking. And so I was telling Jeff the scenario. I was like, we got it. We just don't put it out there because not all drivers have it. So it's just there if it's ever needed. And that's legit. He sent me the paperwork and everything. And so I called the driver back and say, look, dude, you got your Hazmat? He goes, yeah, we've got it. You're covered if it is Hazmat. He goes, okay. So he goes pick up the load, and sure enough, it wasn't. So usually the brokers that have to do Hazmat have to be on their A game. Would you not agree, CDN? Because here's the deal. One time I called, I was at Landstar, I called an agent on, and it said Hazmat on the description. And this was the conversation. Hey, this is, Steve, I'm looking at your load picking up and doing this. Is that still available? And she goes, you have placards. I'm like, what? You have placards. Do I have placards? Yes, you need placards. Well, what's the load? This is chemicals. You need placards. Click. And I just shook my head. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. And the second negative experience I had at Landstar with the Hazmat was I called on a load and they weren't sure if it was Hazmat or not, but if I'd be willing, and I'd negotiate a little bit more money just in case it was. And sure enough, I show up and they didn't have placards either. Anybody who has Hazmat, you should know that the shipper has to supply those placards. They have to be the correct placards. This was in Tulsa. I was driving into a snowstorm in Dallas. So the load was going to be late anyways. So I was already like bummed out, but because I literally went to pick up the load, went back to Flying J and sat out for a day. Anyways, because Dallas is the last place you want to be during a snowstorm. Trust me on this. So I get to the shipper, they load me correct, and like, okay, I need placards. They're like, what? You need placards? They're like, oh, are those square things? I'm like, yeah, you need that. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll be right back. I'm like, okay. She hands me 4 pieces of regular paper with the placard that was needed this small on the ditto sheet. I'm like, yeah, that's not going to work. So I called Landstar to confirm what placards we need, and the guy had to drive me in his car up to the Flying J to get the right placards. And his excuse was, well, we don't normally ship this. This is an odd item for us to ship, so we had no idea. So we don't keep placards on hand. I'm like, okay. But I mean, you got to be on your A game when it comes to the hazmat. I wish brokers would put more load information in the posts, especially in the multi-stop. Saves us both the time. I prefer to have a quote ready. Well, look, if you call in a load and it's like 8 stops, then you're like, okay, well, what are the stops? Let me evaluate this, and I'll call you back, because that load ain't gonna fly off the shelf. And yeah, it does consume more time, but the brokers that are on their A game with the multiple stops, they will have all that ready. But a lot of them don't want to post the details because that takes time and money for them. It is a shipper responsibility to provide placards. How can someone not know if a load is hazmat? Look at the safety data sheets. It boggles me how anyone can be allowed to ship freight, right? Seems like there's not a lot of good news about Landstar operations yet. They are large. Well, that's a different topic for a different day. So, guys, I'm going to get off here. I got to get to work. I appreciate everybody coming in here. I appreciate if you're interested in the 123 low board, it's 48065. I do get a kickback, but you also get a discount. You get a good discount. You get 30 days for free. Even if you don't have an MC number, you can check it out. So, DAT, you can't. You have to have an MC number or MC number approval for you to check out their low board. So, thanks for the support. Thanks for the live chat interaction. And yeah, so thanks for watching. Strength for today, hope for tomorrow. And hopefully I'll see you guys on Friday. Peace.